Hey, Tammy Davis here, and I want to thank you very much for joining me. It's been a while since I've posted anything, and I thought it was about time. I've actually relocated back across the country. Yes, I was in Delaware for the last couple of years and have recently returned back to the Santa Fe area. As you can see, I'm currently sitting in a parking lot doing this, primarily because, well, it just seemed like the right thing to do. So there may be some noises, hopefully, maybe nobody looking, I don't know, but it doesn't really matter. The first thing I wanted to do was welcome and thank all of my recent subscribers. I'm glad to have you along, and if you have any questions or would like me to address something specifically, by all means, let me know. Tammy at synergessence.com is the best way to get a hold of me. You can also visit my website to see if there might be any questions that you can find answered there. But if not, by all means, be in touch. On that note, while coming out here and subsequently since setting myself up here, it took some deep thought, if you will, with regards to how I describe myself. Now, in previous videos, if you've seen any of those, I've shared that I'm a internationally certified master clinical aromatherapist. Well, I've gone on to expand that, basically stating that I am a master clinical phytotherapist, meaning that I work with the whole plant. Yes, I do specifically focus on essential oils, and I will get into covering that here as to why and how I use those. However, I've also gone on to explain that I'm adopt the title of Integrative Health Consultant. Now, there's a lot of people out there practicing integrative medicine, integrative healthcare, but the difference between me and them is that I don't believe in focusing on the use of products that are derived from plant constituents. Now, this is where medications come from, and we also have a lot of nutraceuticals, which includes basically your vitamins and your minerals, your supplements. And unless they are food-based, meaning plant-based, whole food supplements, they are basically derived from plant constituents. And that is the premise of this video. The reason why I don't condone excessive use of that or our sole use of plant-derived supplementation and is because they don't nature recognizes nature is how I want to say that, and this is the reason why I like to combine essential oils with whole foods. Sometimes I do recommend supplementation, but for the most part, the supplements that I would recommend primarily would be things like B vitamins, magnesium. I know I've gone on and recommended quercetin a couple of times, but the thing is like I said, nature recognizes nature. And since doing a lot of these videos and working with a number of clientele, I've come to discover that a large portion of our nutraceutical companies, if not all of them, are currently owned by pharmaceutical companies. So the pharmaceutical companies have branched out into nutritional supplementation. And while that may seem like a good thing, just like pharmaceuticals, these nutrients are synthetically reproduced. They've learned how to do this, and in some ways, it's a really brilliant way of use of our technology. However, as I've said a couple of times now, nature recognizes nature. So number one, nature is going to it's going to recognize what's actually generated or produced in nature, and that will override. Now, some of you might say that that's a good thing, but I want to say, and sometimes it's not. And the reason when it's not is because there's interactions that will affect, and this is the part that I become very active about. We need to pay attention to what we're combining. If you are taking a a supplement, let me just say this. First of all, things like calcium, magnesium, vitamin D, vitamin E, oftentimes those are not recommended for a number of medications. So you need to understand your medications. Number two, if the body will pick up natural first and disregard the man-made, this could pose a problem with our health. This actually could increase symptoms or adverse reactions. And so we want to make sure that we understand how we're combining things. Number one, that there are no interactions. And number two, that we don't cause adverse reactions. So this is where an integrative health consultant is a good idea. So I oftentimes will I always pair oils with food, superfoods like spirulina is a good one, maca is a good one, raw cacao is another one. So these are nutrient-rich foods that work well with oils. Now, when I say plant-based, typically, and like I said, with the supplementation, it's wise to do whole food or plant-based, but they still lack the oil, okay? And this is the reason why it's always good to pair these things together, because the oils actually modify genetic expression just like any other chemical. If you run into a healthcare professional that says that oils don't do this, they don't understand the oils, and so I would encourage you to actually speak to somebody who does understand oils. All chemicals, or most chemicals, are what's considered lipophilic, or a large portion of our chemicals are lipophilic. And lipophilic means it requires oil or fat to be assimilated into the system. Essential oils are, and just like medications, and they have the ability to regulate cell function. This isn't always a good thing, okay? And it's not always a bad thing. Medications do the very same thing. And so learning how to pair these together is essential. And so therefore I have really changed the way I work with oils to include ones that bring stability to the system, that don't specifically control hormones or neurotransmitters. I do talk an awful lot about mental health. Please understand that our brain chemistry, which is both hormones and neurotransmitters, actually regulate all of our physical processes. So to work with the mental health or the brain health will actually improve the way the system works, and vice versa. So if we're going to use oils, our better bet is to use ones that are good for the digestive system. So if you're looking for suggestions there, I would encourage such things as marjoram Spanish, cilantro, peppermint. I would be careful with spearmint. I'm trying to think of other ones that would be. You want to be careful with thyme. You have different types of thyme, so you need to know which thyme you're using. The same thing goes for rosemary. Cinnamon, you want to use caution with, especially with young children, as the same thing goes with eucalyptus. There's different types of eucalyptus, and so not all eucalyptus is good for young children, especially on an ongoing basis. So when I talk about the oils, I'm talking about long-term use. That means like daily use of them. So those are some ideas for helping to restore some stability and some calming effects to the system, to especially the digestive system. That's where I would start. If you're taking medication, 65% of the United States population alone is taking some form of medication. Understanding the mechanism of action is essential. You don't want to duplicate action. You do not want to duplicate action at all. This is the reason why I call myself a phytotherapist, because we need to understand how to introduce plants into this equation. I don't strongly encourage the use of herbs. Why? Because herbs are medicinal, and unless you are not taking any medications at all, you don't want to use many herbs on an ongoing basis. Cat's claw is a great example. Cat's claw is known for it's helping to support the immune system, but Some things are immune stimulating, some things are immune suppressing, and you don't want to do anything long term. As I mentioned a little while ago, plants, including the essential oils, have the ability to modulate genetic function. And so, and I've talked about this in other videos, when we are affecting cell reactions on an ongoing basis, and when we affect, when we activate or deactivate cell function, whenever that happens, that's what I call flipping a switch. So if we flip a switch, let's just say our immune system is depressed right now, and we're, it's kind of weakened, and so we use immune stimulating plants. Well, ongoing stimulation is, or even for that matter, short-term stimulation, is going to cause a switch to flip somewhere else. So this is the body's ability to modulate function. It is wired to activate and deactivate itself as needed. When we introduce chemicals into the system that are not our own chemicals, meaning our own neurotransmitters and hormones, we are in effect changing the way the system is working. Now, this isn't a bad thing. This is not about good, bad, right, wrong. This is just a fact of nature. And so we want to pay attention to how we're doing this, because long-term activation causes long-term deactivation of something else. One of the things that I've learned about over the last year through all of my research is that stress essentially triggers a protection mechanism. We see stress as bad because we experience the onset of disease and disorder and discomfort, depending on how long this has been going on. And there's a large movement, as we know, to relieve our stress. This is both mental and emotional. But let me just tell you this. We are under chronic stress, even if we're doing everything we can to relieve our mental and emotional state. The environment alone is influencing the way our system is responding to the environment, okay? So we have incoming information. We add to that because it's ongoing. So no matter how much stress relief we take on. Now, I have a lot of questions that come in and go, well, how come my body, I'm sicker than, my neighbor? Well, you have your own individual genome. And one of the things that I've recently come across, which I'm really intrigued with and beginning to study more on, as I've talked about before, we are all living with hormonal imbalances, regardless of who you are. Again, the significance of your hormonal imbalance is going to be different, comparatively speaking, due to your own individual genetics. We do know that our digestive system is passed on to our children as parents, and we also recognize the fact that there is such a thing called synchrony. And synchrony is where the hormonal system will regulate itself. We are very familiar with this when it comes to men and women, the hormonal system syncing itself in order for reproduction. There's also a large amount of study being conducted on the parent-child synchronization of the hormonal system, and I don't disagree with this at all. The reason for that is there's the whole attachment model, and where parent-child, with the whole bonding, that is going to come through our chemistry. And they're also finding that synchrony happens with regards to our hormonal system, and I am a big believer at this point that the closer the parent-child bond, the more the hormonal system will regulate itself, or attempt to regulate itself, or kind of mirror itself is the word I want to say. And I'm finding this more and more. We have an increase in autism, we have an increase in special needs, and if the mother's hormonal system is already dysregulated as a result of environmental impact, which it is, and the child is trying to regulate itself from birth, we're going to have a synchronization that is going to automatically start out of balance. So my recommendation for that is a mother-child, how do I want to say that? A mother-child protocol or treatment protocol where the mother really works to help her system adapt as best as possible, and then work with the child individually, more as a preventive more as a preventive as opposed to trying to fix a problem. So this is, and again, we want to do this with oils and as much food-based nutrition as possible. Again, I realize there's a lot of supplements out there or nutritional products that are food-based, and thumbs up for those. If you're taking medications, you want to make sure that you get an outside recommendations, because number one, we're too emotionally attached, and number two, there's a lot of information to be putting together to kind of create a full-on plan. And so medications, food, and oils primarily. If you need to use, or again, if you want to include food-based supplementation because you just can't stomach all the food, no worries about that. But do what you can to avoid a lot of nutraceuticals, and especially single vitamins and minerals. And again, I want to explain a little bit more about that. So pharmaceuticals, the reason why they are, why we experience setbacks or have to remain on cocktails, and why I encourage the pairing of food and oils, is because, again, they are produced, they are plant-derived, they're products derived from plant constituents. And in nature, there's something to the plant that man cannot replicate. And even though essential oils are not the full plant, the reason why they don't pair well with herbs is because again, herbs are more medicinal, and even though food is medicinal, it's primarily vitamins and minerals. Yes, there are phytonutrients that are very beneficial, but to pair them with the oils, you're getting a closer combination that the medications can work with. You see, medications are known for the way they deplete nutrients, and people have a habit of bad-mouthing this and thinking that this is a bad thing. We've been gifted this opportunity to create this technology for a good reason. And the reason why they deplete nutrients is because they're actually needing the rest of that plant in order to function properly. But the challenge is that the body becomes depleted. So oftentimes we take a lot of supplementation, and our digestive system becomes imbalanced as a result of all of this stress that's coming in. Hence, using essential oils for supporting the digestive system. Yes, there are other things that you can use, such as probiotics and digestive enzymes and bone broth, that will help benefit the digestive system. Even there are herbal supplements that you can take, such as triphala, which is an Ayurvedic herb, which is very good. You want to do it in lower amounts, because it will cause an explosive event, if you will. But that said, that's the reason why pharmaceuticals have a tendency to deplete the system, because they're actually needing the whole plant. And if we can provide it with as much whole plant as possible, we're doing good. Nutraceuticals will do the same thing. It needs the whole plant. And so if you're getting a vitamin A or a vitamin C or a vitamin E that's been replicated in a lab, it's lacking the rest of the plant. There's a synergy. This is the reason why I named my business Synergescence. There's a synergy to nature. So this is what happens with the whole plant. And so when we take a lot of supplementation that is based on plant constituents and based on vitamins and minerals found in nature, but it is not in fact combined with nature, then it begins to deplete the system as a whole. So your best bet, if you're taking medications, is to combine it with oils that stabilize the system, that counter the mechanism of action of your medication. and really strengthen the digestive system, as well as really nutrient-dense foods. This is the reason why smoothies are good, or smoothie bowls are good, really nutrient-rich foods paired with oils on an ongoing basis. I get asked a lot how long we need to live on oils. As long as we're on planet Earth, I say include your oils, and make sure to change them up to the best of your ability. 4 to 6 weeks, you want to be rotating them. And you want to avoid as many, you want to avoid using oils that directly influence specific chemistry in the brain. I've talked about them before: tea tree, lavender, geranium, thyme, lemon. That was the one I was coming up with. So anyway, you want to use things, and a lot of the oranges have the same thing, and lemongrass has it. So we want to use these sparingly. And so really focusing on the digestive system as a start. And again, even if you just did that and paired it with whole food nutrition, then you are off to a great start. If you are not taking medications, then again, rotating your oils and kind of following symptoms, but you also want to really focus on the digestive system, because the digestive system is tweaked. In fact, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to post a link down below that you can actually follow that gives you the physiological changes that occur as a result of stress. And again, we have stress as mental and emotional, but we have to consider that environmental factors are a big one in this. And so I'll put the link in the description box that you can use and at least find out more information on as to what's actually happening in the body. But see this as a good thing. When we are, let's just say, for instance, if we are under attack, let's say a dog is chasing us, we are not thinking about eating a next piece of pie or a bowl of ice cream or a steak. We are eating our comfort food. We are thinking about survival. And when we are in survival, the body has this miraculous way of switching gears in order to help us survive. Our challenge is we are in chronic overload, chronic survival mode. And so therefore the chemistry is consistently changed, which then diminishes our ability to break down our macronutrients, and it alters the way the body's using the micronutrients. This is the reason why. So click on that link, check it out. Let me know if you have any questions. I think that's where I'm going to stop for today. I know that I'm distracted. I'm excited to be back. I'm really happy to be a part of this community, and I look forward to your questions. Thanks again for watching. Have a beautiful day wherever you are, and I look forward to sharing more with you later this week. All right, bye now.